All right, everybody, this is Eric Hayden from the National Weather Service in Morehead City. We will get started with the briefing. We're following along what Shane had sent out earlier this morning with regards to the latest update. What's changed? Florence continues to strengthen, still expected to become a major hurricane, increasing the risk of life-threatening impacts, including storm surge and inland flooding. Continue to increase rainfall totals. Confidence has increased on heavy rainfall across our area. And tropical storm force winds still most likely to arrive sometime Thursday morning, and the earliest reasonable time that those tropical storm force winds may arrive is Wednesday evening. So that part has not changed. Just a little update for you. We will send out another briefing in the form of a PDF. It'll probably be more toward 5:30 this evening, and then David Glenn will be helping out with our next conference call, which will be this evening at 6:30. If you need any of that information, the webinar, I know I sent it out, I think Saturday. Just email me, and we'll make sure we get that to you. Now, as we've gotten a little bit closer, still expecting significant impacts, but they're becoming more likely. Still some uncertainty with the final storm track, and that will be all what we need in terms of the strongest core of winds will really be determined by that exact final track, and still uncertain on that. But as far as storm surge and wind, significant impacts certainly becoming more likely. Flooding likely, and again, both flash flood initially, and then followed by longer-term river flooding. We have Thursday into Saturday, but the potential is there for it to last many, many days, if not weeks, when you're talking with regards to river flooding. Still some signs that the storm, at the very least, will slow down, if not stall out, over the Carolinas into the weekend. So this is a multi-day event, and the impacts could last a very long time. With the current projection, any landfalling system can produce tornadoes, and the current projection would place our forecast area in the right side of the storm. That is more favorable for tornadoes. The timing on that would be with landfall. Ahead of the landfall Thursday, you have those outer bands rotating on shore, and then through the day Friday with the landfall itself. We have already seen impacts on the waters. High likelihood of dangerous surf conditions. We have a high risk for rip currents, all area beaches the rest of this week. So we've already seen those impacts already. As far as the greatest impacts occur, still low confidence on the wind, and that's just with regards to it's all based on the track. Where it does hit, though, extreme impacts are likely. Same with the surge. The confidence in that is increasing for surge issues, and the impacts, again, could be extreme. We have raised the level of rainfall flooding from a moderate impact to a high, still track dependent. We'll show you the forecast map of rainfall, and like we saw with Matthew and any landfalling system or any tropical system, that axis of heavy rain is going to shift. So don't focus on the bullseye placement yet. I would focus more on the amounts, and know that just because you're a tier of counties away from it now doesn't mean that it ends up over you as we get toward later this week. As far as tornadoes go, the low confidence is just in terms of placement, but still moderate impact from that. Any landfalling system usually does have tornadoes, and we'll continue to see extreme impacts on the marine side of things through the remainder of the week. Here's the latest forecast from the Hurricane Center. Not a lot has changed except that Florence continues to strengthen rapidly, and that was expected and is expected to continue to do so. Now Category 2 hurricane. The forecast landfall would be sometime Thursday night or early Friday morning as a major hurricane. That forecast point at 2 a.m. Thursday with the M on it for major hurricane, that is with 145 mile-per-hour winds, with gusts well above that. Again, 145 mile-per-hour winds off our coast sometime Thursday morning, early Thursday morning, and landfall would be Thursday night, early Friday morning. The window continues to get more narrow for folks preparing, so we're trying to hit that a little stronger on social media, and appreciate getting those efforts out in the community the rest of today. Earliest time of arrival, this is the 1 in 10 chance, worst case scenario. This is when folks should complete their hurricane preparations. This would be sometime Wednesday evening. This really has not changed. There still could be changes with the movement of the storm, but so far this has remained pretty consistent. Worst case, we get tropical storm force winds sometime as early as Wednesday evening, and they are still most likely to arrive in our area sometime Thursday morning. So that continues to be the same message that we've been talking about for a little while now, and that continues to be the case. Shane did a great job zooming in now that we're getting a little bit closer to give you some a little bit better perspective on North Carolina itself. We tell folks to focus on the trend, and that trend continues to go upward. Tropical storm force winds at 80% for much of eastern North Carolina, and near 100% for a lot of folks, especially toward where the current trajectory is for landfall. Expect these values to continue to increase unless there's a big change in the storm track. 50 knot probabilities continue to increase, now 60 to 80% for the southwest part of our area. Again, that's showing that influence of the landfall somewhere near Wilmington or just east of there. And hurricane force wind probabilities 30 to 50% for much of southeastern North Carolina. With this map, I do want to emphasize when you go back to the forecast cone, I think this is a good point to continue to bring. Although the forecast track has not changed much, just a slight deviation will make all the difference. So that's why folks down into the middle part of South Carolina, up through the Outer Banks, are still at risk. This forecast cone shows the most probable path for the center only of the storm, and 2/3 of the time it does go on this forecast path. However, impacts are felt well away from the center, so we want to continue to get folks to not focus too much on exact landfall, because we're going to see impacts across the Carolinas no matter where it hits. So kind of keep that in the back of your head. A slight deviation will make all the difference, and impacts will be still felt well away from the center itself. Forecast rainfall, hopefully this jumps off the screen at you. This is a 7-day total from our friends up at the Weather Prediction Center. That is 15 to 20 inches across eastern North Carolina. Again, focus on the numbers, not so much the bullseye. The bullseye is going to change based on the track. Could it shift a tier of counties inland? Could it shift a tier of counties toward the Outer Banks? Yes. Just focus on the numbers and the impact that it could have on our area. So initially flash flooding, but then long-term concerns with river flooding and then issues with roadways as well, several days to weeks after the storm. This is our first estimate of rainfall across eastern North Carolina. This is just through Saturday night, 4 to 8 inches over a large part of our area. And then you can see the bullseye now, Kinston, Trenton, and Jacksonville. Just like we saw with Matthew, just because you're east or west of this bullseye now, don't think you won't see that heavy rain. That axis of heavy rain is going to shift in the coming days, and we really won't know until the track gets finalized, which is still a couple days away. So this is just more a heads up on the intensity of the rainfall, not so much the placement or location. We are already in a severe weather outlook for Thursday. This is a day 4 outlook for probability of severe weather. This would be with regards to the landfalling system and the possibility of tornadoes. So when we talk about hurricane preparedness, yes, it's wind and storm surge, but we already highlighted heavy rain and also tornadoes. So folks sheltering in place or choosing to stay may have to deal with isolated, more intense areas of damage due to tornadoes. We had a high rip current threat from Cape Hatteras northward through the weekend, and now for the rest of the week we will continue with a high risk of rip currents. We've also seen some ocean overwash up across the Outer Banks. We are starting to see some swell from Florence, but that's more because of the king tides and then also because of an enhanced period of wind up in that area. So we're already starting to see some water issues, not directly related to Florence at all, but nonetheless still some impacts. Got off the phone with the folks up in Dare County, Pea Island and places like that, down toward Ocracoke, seeing some issues at high tide today. I'm going to hop out and talk about the high tide just a little bit more here in a second. Just some housekeeping. Again, our next PDF briefing, probably 5:30. Though we'll have that in your email inbox, and then the webinar will be tonight at 6:30. For those folks on the call that are up toward the Outer Banks, I showed Drew and some folks this already. but this is the tide gauge at Duck. We're approaching high tide now. It's around 6 feet. We saw issues yesterday, so I anticipate we're seeing issues with regards to ocean overwash again. This is mainly related to the period of abnormally higher tides known as the king tides. We could be near it again at high tide later today and Tuesday morning, but you actually see that things improve over the next day or two, and then dealing with Florence would be off this graphic. So just a kind of a heads up on that one as well.